This is Mrs. Claus, and I'm going to read to you a book about Rudolph. Now, you all know the song about Rudolph, so this is going to follow along closely with how they teased and taunted Rudolph. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Once there was a reindeer named Rudolph who lived at the North Pole in Toyland. Rudolph was younger and smaller than all of the other reindeer. All the other reindeer were proud and tall, had tall antlers, and Rudolph's antlers were only tiny stubs. Worst of all, Rudolph had a nose that was big and bright red. It was so red that it glowed in the dark. Poor Rudolph, he wanted to be like all the other reindeer in Toyland. Oh, to have a small brown nose instead of a big bright red one. The other reindeer all made fun of Rudolph, and they called him names. Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, they teased over and over again until tears glistened on Rudolph's red nose. They kicked up snowballs with their tiny hoofs and covered Rudolph with a blanket of white, furry, fluffy snow. Sometimes the other reindeer made a circle around Rudolph and sang, red nose, a funny red nose, big as an apple, twice as bright, ha ha ha, Rudolph. All the reindeer loved to play games. They played tree tag and snow slide and tumble bones. But Rudolph was never asked to play. He stood behind a pine tree and watched, and he was very lonely. Rudolph couldn't even play hide and seek with all the rabbits. His glowing red nose gave him away every time. Before Christmas Eve, Santa's elves posted a sign on the Toyland gate. Santa's team's choosing time, the sign said. All the reindeer were asked to line up at 8 o'clock in the meadow, and Santa Claus was coming to choose his team that would deliver the presents to every good little boy and girl in the world. The reindeer fairly danced with excitement when they heard the news. They pranced and tossed their antlers and pawed the snowy ground with their hoofs. Each reindeer had hoped that he would be chosen to guide Santa's sleigh. It was one of the greatest honors that a reindeer could have. Rudolph sighed. He was ashamed to have Santa see his bright red nose, so he decided to hide. In the meadow, all the reindeer in Toyland except Rudolph stood in a line while Santa inspected them. Santa chose very carefully. Only the fastest, the strongest, and the best reindeer would do. I think Dasher would be fine, he said to the biggest reindeer. Dasher, wrote his elf assistant in a big book, and Dancer is the stronger, said Santa, pulling at his beard. Dancer, wrote the elf in the big book. Ho, 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 let's see, continued Santa. Here's Prancer and here's Vixen. They make the smoothest landings on the rooftops. Comet is the fastest and Cupid is the most sure-footed. I'll pick them. And last, Santa said, I choose Donner and Blitzen. They're the best at twisting over treetops and skimming over telephone poles. The reindeer in Santa's team was very happy, and they all rubbed their noses. They danced and they clicked their antlers together. Even the reindeer who weren't chosen were given jobs. One was to try out the electric trains, and the other one was to cuddle the Christmas kittens. The only reindeer without a job was Rudolph. He wanted to help, but he knew he would be laughed at. At last it was Christmas Eve. Santa and his elves were busy packing the sleigh. I don't care if they make fun of me, said Rudolph suddenly. I want to help too. I'll bring Santa's sleigh and team a pail of nice cool water, Rudolph decided. They'll get thirsty on their long journey. The night was bitter cold and terrible fog had covered the earth. Santa's elves kept bumping into each other as they hitched up the team. They could hardly see to put the bright red harnesses and tie each of the jingle bells on each of the reindeer. And to make matters worse, Dasher and Dancer were fighting over who was going to be that lead reindeer. I was chosen first, said Dasher, stamping angrily. But you always trip over the moon, Dancer said, kicking a fallen star. Even Santa was cross. We'll never get out of here if you two don't stop quarreling, he said. Where's my Christmas list? Dash it all, I can't see a thing for all this fog. Just then a soft red glow lit up the snow. Thank goodness, said Santa, suddenly being jolly again. I found my list. Ho, ho, ho. I must have tucked it under my belt. Who brought this fine lantern? Santa asked. I must take it with me. Why, I can see perfectly now. It's not a lantern, said Rudolph, trembling. The light comes from my nose. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, said Santa. I'm certainly glad to see you. Your light will guide my sleigh tonight. I appoint you head of my team and #1 reindeer in all of the world. Rudolph then held his head high. Proudly he danced to the front of the team. All the other reindeer bowed. Donner and Dancer helped Rudolph to get on his harness, and Cupid gave him a beautiful sprig of holly berries. Then down, down, down through the clouds and over the sleepy houses, Santa and his team flew on that foggy Christmas Eve. And leading the whole procession was Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. So if you see a soft glow in the sky on Christmas Eve, you can be sure that that's Rudolph, the most famous reindeer of all. He's very near.
Ho, ho, ho.